It's been quite a while since we saw Green Bay on the field, but we're back to talk this year's NFL Draft. We'll recap the Packers picks, including some listener feedback, all coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
We are gathered here together today in honor of your 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers, and isn't it fortuitous that AR-12 is returning for another season at the same time as we kick off the 12th season of your Packers Fan Podcast? Yep, I'd call it destiny. Glad to have you all here. I'm Wayne Henderson from MediaVoiceovers.com, and this upcoming season of Packers football is going to be epic.
And I'm Scott Clark from The Gaming Outsider, and it's so great to be back on the mic with my good friend to talk some Packers football, even though we're a ways away from the regular season. On this 250th edition of Your Packers Fan Podcast, we will be covering the 2022 NFL Draft, which is in the books, and the Packers are looking pretty good. We're going to talk a bit about all of these great players.
And as is tradition, Scott, we share more great listener feedback, so stay tuned for that. And wow, what a crazy NFL draft. There was trading of picks. The Packers picked great players. There was all of the expected Vegas nonsense. And of course, on I think it was night 2, the read the card incident. It was all very strange. Also that, believe it or not, only one quarterback was picked night 1. Another one wasn't even picked until the middle of day 2. It's crazy. Usually, 4 or 5 that get drafted on the first night?
Right. It's been a long time since that happened, too, they said. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, going into the draft, we kind of knew that the talent pool for wide receivers was a little bit low this year. Or quarterbacks, excuse me. I apologize. Quarterbacks, the pool was a little bit low. So it was kind of expected, but not even 2? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I thought, personally, it was just too much of a Vegas show. Not enough focus on the actual draft. They were trying too much to be kind of like that Thursday or Wednesday night season opener party. Not a fan. Green Bay, if we ever do get to host the draft, we're going to do it the right way. I mean, there were TikTokers and other Vegas shenanigans. It was lame and embarrassing, but
there were video game streamers too, man. Dr. Disrespect was out there for one of the picks, which I thought was completely odd. I'm assuming you don't know who that is, but he's a pretty big deal in my world.
Okay. I do not know who that is. I didn't even know who the magician was that was wasting a lot of my time.
Well, before you get into the actual picks here, Wayne, I just want to give a shout out to my friend Matt Sattler, who is huge into the college football scene, as I am not. I actually relied on him to get me some information about some of these players. So a lot of the things you hear me talk actually came from his mouth. So thank you, Matt, for your help, because I am quite ignorant when it comes to college football, and I had really no idea how else to do research. So thanks, man.
Whatever it takes, Scott. I'm not much into college football either. I can barely keep up with the NFL with as many teams as there are. But with our 22nd pick, the one that we got from the Devonta Adams trade, and since we last talked, Scott, did you hear that we've lost Devonta Adams?
Yes, that was very unfortunate. One of our best players, if not our best player, if you want to throw age into the mix there. He's going over the Raiders, but, I'm still happy for him. I still am really happy for him. He's been a Raiders fan his entire life, apparently, so it's kind of been his dream to go there. So as much as it stinks for us, I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, I'm not upset with him. It's kind of strange how I had to work out with us using the franchise tag, even though nobody really likes that, because he was going to leave anyway. At least by using the franchise tag, we did get a couple of draft picks and some other good stuff. So it could have been worse. We could have just lost him altogether and not gotten anything for him. But with that 22nd pick, Quay Walker, inside linebacker from Georgia. I guess he's a Georgia native who played in more than 10 games in every one of his 4 years for that Georgia defense this past year. I've heard people say that Georgia's defense last year is one of the best college defenses ever. And we got at least one player from that great defense.
Absolutely. This is a very solid player at Georgia. He was very efficient. I don't know if you know this, but he's got a wingspan of 80 inches, which is huge. And apparently he only missed 7 tackles his entire college career. Let that sink in for a minute.
That sounds like something we could use.
Seriously, yeah, absolutely, we could use that. Matt calls him one of the more unsung heroes of the UGA National Championship defense. So this seems like a very good opportunity for us, and I am very happy. I was not at all surprised that we went with a defensive player for our first pick. I know everybody was clamoring for more targets for Aaron Rodgers, but I think this was a very smart move.
Oh, I totally agree. And not only that, because Aaron Rodgers can make people targets. I know that usually with rookies, he might be a little gun shy throwing to them, but we do have Lazard, we have Randall Cobb, and don't forget, A.J. Dillon, he's got good hands as well. Both of our running backs can catch the ball well. So I think we're going to be fine. And yeah, you got to take the best available player. And our defense has been hit and miss, and if this bolsters it up, then I'm all for it. And then, because of the trade, we picked again just a few picks later. Number 28. Guess what? Another defensive player from Georgia, Devonta Wyatt, defensive tackle. And since these are both from Georgia, they're already accustomed to wearing a beautiful G on the side of their helmets. I mean, that nothing to be ashamed of, that's for sure. And now we've got another Devonta, spelled a little bit different. And he was named to Associated Press's All-American second team in 2021 and won the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week honors after having a career day against Arkansas. So I'm uber excited about our defense right now.
Absolutely. I think this is a really good pick as well. Matt told me that this is another college player that skirted under the radar because he's not like a flashy guy, but he did all the dirty work that you could ask for. One of the other players that was kind of passed over was Jordan Davis. He was actually ranked under Jordan Davis, probably because Davis is Matt described him as an athletic freak in size and speed, but he only played like 30% of snaps on defense, where Wyatt was much more utilized, which is probably why that happened. So he was also the number 2 guy at his position on almost all evaluations. Matt described him as a blue-collar guy that will, quote, absolutely fill a big role out in the Packers' defense. So that is very much needed. I like it. Moving on to day 2, the Packers traded one of their second-round picks to Minnesota to move up to pick number 34. At this point, that means the Packers drafted 3 players in the span of 13 draft picks. That is pretty shrewd of Gutekunst. Aaron Jones was actually on hand to announce the 34th selection, which was pretty cool to see. And that pick was Christian Watson, wide receiver from North Dakota State. He's also already familiar with wearing green and gold, so I kind of like where your head is on there, Wayne. He played on 3 FCS national championship teams while at NDSU. His 2021 statistics included 43 receptions, 800 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. What do you feel about this pick?
I really, really like it. I know some people wish that we would have drafted 5 or 6 wide receivers during the weekend, but I think this is the guy. I mean, if there's a rookie that can earn Aaron Rodgers' trust his first year, I think it could be Christian. It's going to be exciting to see how this unfolds.
Absolutely. I mean, this was obviously Green Bay's attempt to replace Devonta, which is impossible. You can't replace Devonta, right? And keep in mind, we also moved on from MVS and St. Brown this offseason. So this was definitely a much needed move, and we could finally stop people from complaining about not picking any wide receivers. They picked Watson over other prospects, Sky, Moore, George Pickens, Alex Pierce, John Mechie III. But Watson does fill Gutekunst's profile for tall and speedy when it comes to the wideout position, and he can do the 40 in 4.36, so that's really good there.
Any concerns?
Again, this is coming from Matt, but he says that the concerns with the prospect are a lack of polish and the division stigma that comes with North Dakota State, particularly with what was on the board at the time. So apparently Matt thinks that there could have been some better choices here, but that's a little bit of a concern there.
And if he's from North Dakota, Green Bay's going to seem positively warm in some aspects.
Probably.
And in fact, Sir Troy shared me some stats about the Packers wide receivers, like the last 5 that we've picked in the second round, which is where, of course, we took Christian. So in the second round, since 2006, we've drafted Devonta Adams, and of course, Christian Watson this week, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, things work out pretty well. What do you think?
I would say so. If history repeats itself, we should be in good hands with Christian Watson. But, that's also, past doesn't always dictate the future, but I sure hope it does.
Oh, me too.
Moving on to the third round, the 92nd pick is Shawn Ryan, guard from UCLA. He was a starter in all 12 games at left tackle. He helped the UCLA Bruins to average over 200 yards per game on the ground 2 years in a row. And this is a player that the Packers are going to look to in a more versatile light. He comes as a bit of a project because of this as well. Being a slightly undersized lineman, he will likely be able to play multiple spots. So that's interesting info there. In a season where the Pack have lost Billy Turner and spent much of last season struggling to fill the shoes of David Bakhtiari, the Packers need a guy who can fill multiple roles as needed. He's continually improved every year at UCLA, and this bodes well for the Packers as a very strong pick.
I like it. We need to protect AR-12. So far, we're on a roll. We're getting the needs that we need. I did hear some of the pundits on television saying, well, I don't know, he's going to have to come to grips with changing from the Southern California climate to playing, on the line up in Green Bay. And I'm thinking, well, true, but Kenny Clark from UCLA has done pretty well converting to the cold weather climate. So it can be done quite well. No worries there. And then in the fourth round, pick 132, Romeo Doubs, another wide receiver. We're starting to stack him up now. He's from Nevada, and Romeo was named to the All-Mountain West first team, as well as a candidate for the Bolitnikoff Award for the second consecutive season.
This is definitely a depth pick, at this position. He's got a similar selling point as Watson with exceptional speed. He can do the 40 and 4.3. And, Nevada doesn't have the most prestigious program, but he definitely flashed at points in his career there. It's a little questionable given that Calvin Austin was still available at this point, but Doubs is still definitely highly regarded by some people out there. So interesting pick.
Yeah, it's hard to tell what goes into those types of decisions at the time. Maybe there's just something they liked that they saw with Romeo, or maybe who knows. It could be almost anything, maybe even just having chats, and Calvin was like, I don't know, I'd rather go wherever. Then just a few picks later, because, we've been juggling picks around, pick 140, Zach Tom, a guard from Wake Forest. He was 2021's first team All-ACC, and Zach has played 3,107 snaps and only gave up 2 sacks. Put him on the line. That's pretty impressive. We need all the help we can get. Protect Aaron Rodgers, the name of my game.
This is another versatility pick for Green Bay because, Forrest here can be pushed inside at guard and play outside at tackle, much like he did in his career at Wake Forest. So, plus he's also a really good pass blocker, and and Matt says that this is a very fantastic value and investment in round 4. So, really like this pick a lot. Then wrapping up on day 3. On pick 179, Kingsley Enagbare. Did I pronounce that correctly, Wayne?
That's as close as I can get.
Enagbare or Enagbare. This is an edge player from South Carolina. He was named first team All-SEC by all 14 coaches in conference junior year, despite missing 2 games due to injury. This is another depth pick for outside linebacker. The Packers are thin there, which we talked about a little bit earlier. But Enagbare was an offensive pressure generator at South Carolina with a top 10 pressure rate in the country. Problem is he's not the fastest guy, and this is likely why his draft stock was fairly low. He recorded actually the second lowest of all outside linebackers in the draft class. So he's not speedy, but hopefully we'll have some good use for him in other places.
I'm not sure if he's the guy, but one of our draft picks on defense said that they were excited that Tom Brady came back out of retirement after a few days because that's one quarterback that he really wants to sack. I love that spirit.
I like that. I do like that. Pick number 228, Tariq Carpenter, linebacker from Georgia Tech. This guy played in 50 consecutive games to finish his collegiate career. He picked up team-high 13 tackles against number 6 Clemson, so that's impressive. This is another guy that will likely move around. He's a little too big to be playing safety in the NFL, but he'll likely slide around to inside linebacker. But depending on the package, he could be a third safety on the field. He's got a ton of experience at UGA with 41 starts, but again, it's another depth pick. So Tariq Carpenter. Pick number 234, Jonathan Ford, DT from Miami. He played at least 10 games in the last 4 years of college. This guy is huge.
Yes,
huge.
he is.
6'5", 333 pounds. That's a big boy. Big boy. He's there to serve a purpose, and that's basically to take up space and clog that running game up, which I'll take it. I'll take it. There's a ton of depth in front of him, so this could be a practice squad stash or a preseason cut, but we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Or he could turn out to be the next Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown.
Oh, man, I missed Gravedigger. That was great. Pick 244, Rasheed Walker, OT from Penn State. He was named third team All-Big Ten team. This is another guy with a ton of experience in college, but also is a depth pick for a thin offensive line. Matt says that the Packers seem to be clearly looking to stock the shelf with low-cost, high-ceiling talent draft investments at this point in the draft. So he wasn't a huge fan of this pick, but I'll wait to see what he does. Pick number 258, Samori Toure, a wide receiver from Nebraska. This guy set the Nebraska team record for most 100-yard receiving games in one season, which was 5. This is a late pick, obviously. He's actually, surprisingly, a bit of an older player. He's 24 years old, which I know it sounds weird to say 24 is old, but coming out of the draft, that's an older player. He started his college career in 2016. He's got some big playability, and he led the Big Ten in yards per catch with 19.7.
Whoa.
Yeah, and this is a quote from Matt. He said, with a room full of talent, I think the Packers will keep an open mind to anybody who shows they belong. This bodes well for Toure.
Remember, dear listener, you can help us alleviate the hunger that comes along as we happily prep and produce the Packers Fan Podcast for you. It's easy. You can gift us a virtual brat or two, maybe even a dozen, in honor of the record-setting AR-12. Just head on over to PackersFanPodcast.com/brat. We'll take care of converting the virtual coffees you'll see there into virtual bratwursts.
Just thinking about it, it's got me getting a little bit hungry already. That draft was intense. If you guys would like to send us a virtual coffee or bratwurst, just go to PackersFanPodcast.com/brat for details on how you too can buy us a brat. Now let's go ahead and get into our listener feedback. We will be doing another episode of the show in a couple weeks, shortly after the Packers game schedules are officially released, and we really want to hear what you think of it all. So keep your voicemail number handy. If you need that number again, it's area code 920-3-PACK-GO. Or you can send your voice message to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com to be part of the podcast. The deadline for that is Sunday, May 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We've got one voicemail this week from Mr. Dan Dialer. I cannot wait to hear from Mr. Pack Sparrow.
Go, 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 Pack, go! Man, have I missed saying that. Oh, I'm so excited for this season to get going. That was my favorite draft class that I've seen in years. We addressed our needs. We got really great players. We won't know for a while if they really are great players or not, but on paper, they look good. I'm no draft nick or anything, but just watching what I've seen and reading what I have in the last few days really makes me excited for this season. I was really hoping for a wide receiver in the first round, but they just weren't there when our turn came up to pick. So they had to go with the BAPR, the best available player, and I think they really killed it with Quay Walker and Devonta Wright. We had to replace a Devonta with another Devonta, even though it's spelled different. These two players are from Georgia. They're NCAA champions. They know what it's like to win. They know how to win. 5 players from the Georgia defense alone were drafted in the first round. That's just crazy. They not only are they from the same team, so they have familiarity, but they're from the SEC, and I hate saying this because I'm a Big Ten guy, but the SEC is the best conference in college football. And it's about time we pick somebody besides from Alabama. Looks like from the other picks that I've seen, versatility and athleticism are very important. A couple of the players are familiar with playing other positions, especially a couple of the guys that are on the offensive line. The athleticism and the speed at wide receiver. Oh, Christian Watson. I can't wait to watch him torch the Vikings twice a year and then be able to laugh in their face for enabling us to trade and draft that player. I can't wait to see that. With all that speed, we got Lazard and Watson and a couple of those other players. They're going to be able to stretch the field, and I think that's going to allow for Cobb and Sammy Watkins to get underneath and be available more. And I think they may have a bigger piece of the pie in the receiving game. And it's kind of funny. I didn't realize this, but earlier or a few weeks ago, but you got Alan Lazard, and then you got Sammy Watkins, who for some reason he thinks he's a lizard. I'm gonna have to find the link, but he actually believes like he's a lizard. So you got the Lizard King and Alan Lazard. You got two lizards on the field scurrying around, catching balls from the best quarterback in the league with Aaron Rodgers, 4-time MVP. It's going to be a great year. The other players that I saw come off the board were, let's see here. Shawn Ryan. He's one of those guys. I think he may end up playing center. He's listed as a tackler and a guard, but he's played both positions, not center, but also tackle and guard. Zach Tom, he's another one of those players that can play multiple roles, multiple positions. I was reading up on Zach Tom, and apparently he's been a player that was, like I said, he's a kind of a plug-and-play player like what we did this last year with all the injuries. So that's going to give them, the Packers and the coaching staff, a lot of flexibility if he pans out. We got to get through training camp and everything like that. I just can't wait to see these players in the grass. Hoping to make a trip up to Lambeau Field and see one practice. I've never been up there during training camp. Hoping to do that this year, and then later in the year in August, planning to go see the inventor of the Lambeau Leap, Leroy Butler, see him inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. That's going to be awesome. I just can't wait for some football, to get some pads cracking, some helmets knocking. Let's do this. Super Bowl run starts right now. We're going to Arizona. Book it. Go, 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 Pack, go! Also, I have to say, can't wait to hear from the other listeners, Pete and Megan, Andre from LA, all the regular guys that always call into the show. I miss hearing your thoughts and your excitement. Also, go to PackersFanPodcast.com and click on the Fanatics link to get all your Packers gear. Let's get ready for an awesome season! Go, Pack, go!
Awesome, Dan. So great to hear from you, man. That was awesome. And thanks for the plug. I love the plug.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know. Sammy Watkins, the lizard. I did not hear about that. That is crazy. I'm going to have to look into that. That's hilarious.
That's crazy because I've heard some of the conspiracy theories about lizard people, but I had no idea that Sammy Watkins, which is our newest wide receiver, next to the draft ones, but you think Sammy could be the number one guy, or Lazard's got that locked up?
That's hard to say. I think it's too early to say. I got to kind of see him again, but I don't know. I'm a little jealous of Dan for going to the Hall of Fame, getting to see Leroy Butler. Man, that'll be pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Yes.
Yeah.
Dan, if you're able to make it to that NFL Hall of Fame ceremony, we need you to be on the show and be like a special correspondent for the Packers Fan Podcast there in Canton.
Absolutely. Glad that Dan's excited for the season. Glad that he found the draft to be very, very good. Yeah. I know he's talking about a little bit of speed and athleticism in our wide receivers. We've got plenty. I know we lost Adams and MVS and St. Brown, but there's still lots of targets, which is all Rodgers needs, right?
Right.
Just lots of different places to go.
And you mentioned earlier that past performance does not guarantee future success. But in the last 3 years with our current head coach, Mr. LaFleur, on any games where Devonta was either injured or out sick, we're undefeated. Let's keep that trend going. Yes, please. Oh, now we had a couple of polls that I posted out there because I was testing a few different things a couple places. Our main poll in our Facebook group, which you can join at packerscommunity.com, and also on Twitter at Packers Fan Pod. It's time for the obligatory NFL draft grade for your Packers. How do you think the team did? And, of course, the basic choices, A minus, B plus, B. Where are you feeling, Scott?
Again, I feel very ill-equipped to answer this question, Wayne, because I know next to nothing about college ball whatsoever. So I'm going to rely on my good buddy Matt to answer this question, because he knows college ball like better than anybody I know, and he's got some really great insight. So I'm just going to quote him and say the Packers draft can be summed up by saying they looked for quantity over quality. It seems that they picked fairly well up on the top and middle rounds, but stacked up their positions of need with lots of depth type players later on. There's some mixed reviews in terms of grading them, as some seen this as an A draft. I personally see it more like B to B plus. So that's the best I can do. Thank you very much, Matt, for that insight. What about you, Wayne?
Interesting indeed. For me, I'm kind of basing my score on just the fact that I think we filled all of the needs we had. So I'm going to grade this as an A. Just a solid A. A great draft. And the votes that came in, 48% also gave it an A. 25% said A minus. 22% voted saying B plus. And 8% of the voters gave it a B.
So there was no option for less than the B, I assume there, Wayne?
There actually was, and nobody chose it.
Oh,
so
nice.
There you have it.
Well, we had some comments on the poll as well. Dictus in the Netherlands says, I might be biased, haha, but I think that this was the absolute best draft I can remember in recent years for our Packers. The nearest thing I can remember is waking up in a hotel in Germany and reading we drafted Eddie Lacy and just laughing out loud. To be fair, can't really judge a draft this early, so let's look back in 3 years. But yeah, this one really feels like Goot hit it out of the park. Thank you, Dictus. Appreciate that.
In Gutekunst, we trust when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. And we also had another poll only in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group, which is at packerscommunity.com. Which two, I had to make it difficult and say, which two of our 2022 draft selections do you think could be quickest to becoming impact players for the Packers? And the results that came in, out of all the choices of all the players, only 3 of them got votes. So Christian Watson, the wide receiver taken at the top of the second round, got 48% of the votes. And then we had a tie for second and third place with Quay Walker and Devonta Wyatt, both getting 26% of the votes. So everybody else is also pretty confident that our top 3 picks are going to be the quickest to make an impact. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Wayne?
Oh, I have to go with that too. I mean, you never really know, kind of like what Ditka said. It's possible that one of those great players we took in the 4th or 5th round could be the one that just works out magic in camp and mini camp and preseason and goes from there. But I'm going to go with the obvious choices this time. Yeah.
No, I hear you, and I think that I'm not surprised by almost half of the community choosing the wide receiver, because that's what everybody wanted, was more wide receivers. But I'm gonna go with the low hanging fruit of Walker, just because after hearing what Matt said about that guy, just being such a high quality pick, I'm really excited to see what that guy's gonna do. So I will keep my eye on him for sure. We had some comments on the poll as well. Garrett had a tough time choosing 2 players, saying, man, that's a tough decision. Some other great, but we also had lots of other great posts and comments unrelated to the polls question that were made in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community group, which again, you can find at packerscommunity.com as well. We had discussions on the upcoming game schedule releases, including the Packers game in London. Yes, we're going to London this year. That's a pretty cool thing.
We're the only team left in the NFL that has not played an overseas game. So it was made happen. You know, we got the 17-game schedule, so we're giving up one of our home games. And even though the main part of the schedule doesn't come out till like the 12th or maybe the 11th, They are releasing the official details of the London game tomorrow. May the 4th be with you as we find out who's going to be playing the Packers in London and when. And that, of course, will be discussed even further in the Packers Facebook community group, as well as other things that are coming up. And we alluded to our newest wide receiver that's officially already a Packer, Sammy Watkins. He previously was with the Chiefs as well as the Ravens. That's a pretty solid trade. I mean, everybody wanted to maybe get Deebo Samuel or one or both of the wide receivers from the Seahawks. But we'll just see what Gutekunst has in mind.
Yeah, there's still plenty of offseason left to go for sure. And yes, we would love it if you guys joined the Facebook group to be a part of that conversation and let your voice be heard. Lots of great people over there to chat with. I highly recommend it.
We also got a brief email from CCR in Green Bay, Wisconsin, otherwise known as Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher. What a great draft, in our opinion, and we actually did a good job of picking up wide receivers and linebackers, as well as other things we needed. Can't wait for the season to start. I know, we got to be patient, but it's not easy. Happy to be back. Go Pack, go. Bleed green and gold till dead and cold. Caleb, Kathy, and Roy Fisher. Oh, and happy birthday to Roy Fisher.
Hey, happy birthday, Roy. As always, your calls, emails, comments, and support are so much a part of the Packers Fan Podcast, so thank you very much. One last reminder, you can join that community at packerscommunity.com.
Yeah, you just have to answer 3 easy questions so we know you're not some spy from the Vikings or a mole from the Bears or somebody from the Lions just checking out what it's like to be part of a winning team. So check that out. And for those of you using one of the modern podcasting 2.0 capable players like Breeze or Podfriend or the Fountain app, for example, you can listen to the Packers Fan Podcast there. And if you're listening in one of those modern apps, now would be a fabulous time to boost some Satoshis our way. Just saying. And if you need a new modern high-tech podcast app for your iPhone or your Google device, Samsung device, however many other devices there are, go to newpodcastapps.com for all the details on those cool things. And since we last spoke, we did have one new episode of Doctor Who. It was a not an Easter special, but for whatever reason, they broadcast it on Easter. And it's the only episode that we get until like October or November when the current Doctor regenerates into a new Doctor. But we did have a Legend of the Sea Devils, which just based on the title, that kind of gives you an idea of that particular episode. And although it was not, in my opinion, a good episode, we did have a lot of fun talking about it on my Don't Blink podcast. Be sure to check it out at don'tblinkpodcast.com.
Well, if you didn't like that episode, I can say now with confidence that the Blink episode was fantastic because, yes, I did actually stay true to my word and watched an episode of Doctor Who after our wager of fun from last season. I still have one more to go. I'm going to watch actually the second one this evening once we're done recording. So I'll report back next time.
Nice. I'm glad you were able to dig into those.
Oh, man.
And as we get closer to preseason and all that, we'll have things locked in for the next Wager O Fun competition between Scott and I. But of course, if you have any ideas on how we can make it fun, yet easy, yet entertaining, let us know.
Also, my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, has an episode coming out this week where we discussed video game sequels that didn't quite live up to their predecessors. I've also been playing a new game called Rogue Legacy 2 that I highly recommend. It's an early Game of the Year contender for me. I can't stop playing it. Please check out our show, though. You can listen to the same place you listen to this show, or you can go to our site, thegamingoutsider.com.
We love the MVPs. We love to hear that chant, and we love to hear about the supporters of the Packers Fan Podcast on Patreon, where we have the value for value model. It's the place where you can financially support the show and have some other fun swag possibly coming your way as well. Just go to PackersFanPodcast.com or the details directly at patreon.com/PackersFanPodcast. Either way, it'll get you there. So, Dan Dyler, thank you, and go Pack go to you, sir, for your Jim Ringo level of patronage, as we like to call it. Sounds kind of fancy that way. And Jay Walters, go Pack go, and thanks again for your AR-12 support of the show. You rock.
Also, Brett Favre thank yous and Go Pack goes to a brand new Favre $4 supporter, David Simmons. Welcome. You are amongst friends. Our other Brett Favre level contributors, Andre in LA, Colm Nolan from Ireland, Scott Boers, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast, and Jeff Summerfield. Also, Go Pack goes and thank yous to Joe Christensen, Hank Davis from the TPE Network, Matt Haig, and Beth Mentink. Thank you again so much for your support. If you too are interested in becoming a patron of the Packers Fan Podcast, check out the details at patreon.com/Packers Fan Podcast.
And with that, we just want to remind you to please follow the Packers Fan Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And the best part, tell a friend, because sharing is caring. The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, and we just want to make sure you know.
Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Packers Fan Podcast, or my personal handle is at GoCastScott, and Wayne's is at Wayne Henderson. And to get this 12th season of the podcast underway proper, it's Patreon supporter Dan Dyler.
Hey, Packers Fan Podcast listeners, this is your cheesehead from Indianapolis, Dan, and I have just two words for you. Go, 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 Pack, go!